Hi, welcome to Spit in the Bit. We're talking about Derby contenders and one of my favorites, Further Ado. Won the Bluegrass in dominating fashion. He's trained by Brad Cox. He had Irad Ortiz on board for that win, but he has Johnny Velasquez, really good replacement for the Derby. He's
I had my choice. I'd rather, with the running style of this horse for the Derby, I would pick Johnny V over Irad for this race with this horse. So I don't think Cox is skipping a beat.
no, No, and some people want to say, Irad had his choice of horses and stuff, but it was as much a business move. It doesn't mean that he thinks Renegade's better, which he might, but it doesn't necessarily mean that because Fletcher and the ownership of um, Renegade are they use him often, and it's so it could have been a business
Oh,
move.
for
It
sure.
could be that. So I'm not reading
Yeah.
into that at all.
When I think of East Coast riders, you know, he's in my top two or three, and for sure, um, seems like a fave choice of Fletcher. So yeah, I
Yeah.
read nothing into it at all. I'm just merely saying I really I think one of Gianni V's strengths are getting a horse out smoothly, and a horse like this getting him in uh, a spot where he's close to the pace.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I'm counting on him doing a good job of that because I have Further Ado winning the Derby. You have him, if I'm not mistaken, fourth.
Yeah. Again, just my top four horses by my numbers are remarkably close.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, this in other years, I like his running style. Um, when I'm looking for a key horse to base all my bets around, I'd rather have a horse like Further Ado than the horse I'm actually going to be on. I think there's less chance for trouble.
yeah, but he isn't like we talked about Commandment before. He's not as reliable as that. There are some question marks
For
surrounding.
sure.
I really like him. I think he's peaking at the right time. Third race off of
Yep.
a long layoff. He the knock one of the knocks on him. Well, there's two of them that I hear consistently. One is, "Oh, he only wins at Keeneland." Well, that's not true, and
Right.
so
Complete farce.
that's where he ran. So he wins where he ran, and um, I don't think he's only a Keeneland horse. Like some people who are smarter than us say that.
Yeah,
And
I don't get why they say that. The horse has won three races. Two of happened to be at Keeneland,
yeah,
but the Kentucky Derby is not run at Keeneland. It's run at Churchill Downs. And oops, this
yeah,
horse won a G2 graded stakes at Churchill Downs. So
yeah.
whatever.
So I
Yeah,
I don't buy that one. And then the other one is that he's won in dominant fashion, but he hasn't beat anybody. And um, again, I somewhat disagree with that. Yeah, he hasn't necessarily beat these other Derby contenders that some of the other horses have done,
sure.
um, but again,
That's a little more valid.
yeah, but
Of
he beat them in
qualifying races, I
dominating
think it was
fashion.
a softer field than others, but he crushed it.
Yeah, he doesn't get to choose who he runs against. He just has to take
Right.
who he's facing, and when that happened, he crushed him. So I like him a
Yep.
lot. I love his explosion at the end. His turn of foot at the end is what excites me, and why I have him there. I'm counting on you being right that Johnny V will have him in a position where that explosive finish
Yep.
will come into play.
Yeah. And I personally think that's a real nice strength of Johnny. Um, my example would be authentic um, against Tis the Law, the COVID year.
Two
I
very
thought
good
that was an
horses.
exceptional ride. I just kept waiting for Tis the Law to go by him, but Johnny's really good at recognizing the pace, in my opinion, and making changes accordingly. and I think better than most any other rider I can think of. There's one other rider in this race that I think has shown he's um, good at that when they're close to the lead, or best at that when they're close to the lead, recognizing a soft pace and and saving plenty of their horse for when they need him in the stretch.
And again, I think he's going to improve off of that performance. I think again,
I
third,
think it's
third race
possible,
off
and I think that's a valid question. I think that's the other valid question for this horse is, um, it's a statistically it's a pretty solid bump up from his Tampa Bay Derby, albeit the Tampa Bay Derby was after a few months off.
Mhm.
Um, how much more can he improve? Is what you.
Yeah. Yeah, and on the flip side, the other question is, or does he bounce? Does he
Yep.
come out? So he's one I'm going to bet to win.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm going to have him in a lot of exotics because for me it's a win, or he could finish. He's got a high floor, high ceiling in this race, in my opinion. Um,
100%.
Whereas like
100%.
commanding, I'll have him in everything because I think he will. He's just super consistent. Further ado, I think is a if he does it, if he runs his race, he wins it. If he doesn't, he doesn't hit the board.
Well, maybe a question for you too, because it sounds like you feel like he is. So far, it sounds as if you feel like he's got a great chance to be loose on lead.
Or near it.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to break, and Johnny V will have him near the lead.
All right.
I think it's going to be a moderate pace. I don't, um, there's only a couple horses that I think are speed horses, and those aren't the major threats in the race. So let them go. Um, and again, I love the fact that the Derby, you're talking about the traffic issues, which always scare me, but the distance, the little bit added distance, and most of his horses I think can handle the extra distance, but there's a few that won't. But
Sure.
I think he will. Gun runner pedigree, he'll like the distance.
What chance do you give further ado if he breaks mediocre?
Mediocre to poor. I don't
Not necessarily poor,
just
but
me.
instead of being a couple lengths off, he's 5, 6 back.
I think he's okay 5 or 6 back. More than that, I think he'll have trouble. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he can. I don't think he can make a move like Renegade where we went 4 or 5 wide and you know mow him down. Um,
Sure.
yeah, I do think Johnny V's got to have him in the up there you know near the lead. Now I don't want him on the
Sure.
lead, but I want him near the lead.
Yeah, no, bottom line is this horse will be in all of my exotics, hands down. He's super dangerous. Um, he's got the right jockey. He's on paper. He's got a chance to have a pace, I think, that will be advantageous for him. Um, I how to put it, and I said it when we were watching him in the paddock at when we were at Keeneland. Um, to me, and again, what do I know? But he just looks more like a Preakness type horse to me. Like that type of race, that type of um, field. He just doesn't look to me like a horse that's gonna um, enjoy the larger field. But again, I could be totally wrong. He just looks a little sleeker to me. And I'm curious how this horse is going to respond when he kind of gets bumped around. Whereas um, I think Renegade and Commandment are horses that are going to welcome getting bumped around.
Yeah, I agree with that. I can't
So
argue that. Yeah. So yeah,
if,
I like him a lot though. I
I do
just
too.
I think the turn of foot is amazing.
If there were two other horses out of the four that I think are going to um, and Further Ado being one of them that are going to be most likely on the lead or making the lead when they turn for home. Um, if some of those horses start to scratch when we're getting closer to post time, I think the better chance he has. But I have a few other horses, well, two in my top 10 that I think are every bit as good, and I would argue are a little better at dictating the pace than Further Ado is going to be. But again, that's why we race them, right?
Yeah, and I do think Further Ado is going to get good odds. Again, I think
Yeah,
we
I think.
Travis, there's so
And
many
what do you mean
horses.
by good odds? Where do you think he'll land?
I think it'll land
Prediction.
at 7 to 1, 8 to 1.
And I disagree. I think he's going to be. I think a lot of people are looking at what we're talking about. It's a prediction, but I think he's going to go off at like 5 to 6 to 1.
Okay,
I think he's going to get some of that Kentucky vibe money.
that could happen. You could see
I
the
think
Kentucky.
there's more people that are looking at this race like you that are saying, I think it's going to be lucky to be a moderate pace, and that gives this horse a good shot. And because the general pulse of the racing world seems to be fairly down on the West Coast horses this year, and I think that's a mistake personally. Um, and I think that money that would often go on those want to be near the lead
Just
Baffert, Doug O'Neill horses are going to go on to Further Ado. And I personally like those horses every bit as much as Further Ado.
yeah, well,
So we'll see.
so yeah, I think Renegade and Commandment are going to take the lion's share of the money. And then I think like the Puma and Chief Wallaby have a big fan base that will, I don't know if it's because of their name or because of what they've done. Yeah, I just know they will be bet kind of heavy.
Sure.
And I don't think they're going to take money away from the favorites. I think that they're going to take further ados. Anyways, it'll be interesting to see.
It
Where
will be. I agree. And part of that too will be how they're training leading up to the race, how they're looking. And like I said, I think and as far as odds go, it would be better for this horse if the West Coast horses stay in. And I'm being kind of broad on who is a West Coast horse because one of those horses I like a lot.
you too.
Uh,
I know who you're talking
what's that?
about.
When there's two that I like a lot. One I'm not high on, but I has the tactical speed and the trainer that I'll be unless something unusual happens will be right up there with the leaders going into the back stretch for sure. Um, but what was I going? Oh, I think his odds will suffer if some of those um, want to be on the lead near the lead horses scratch. So I'm hoping this year we get lucky, and so far we're doing really well. Um, we're not losing horses. I mean, the horses that have come out and said we're going elsewhere, we've made predictions a
Yeah.
couple weeks back that would happen,
And they
and
need to. It was a good call. And
good call for sure.
like,
It makes me happy about those trainers and those ownership groups to recognize, hey, we've got a good horse. Um, let's take him where he's got a shot, or they've got a shot to do well.
yeah. All right. Well, sounds good. Further ado, we both like. I like them a lot more than you, but you still like them, and we're both going to bet them. So we'll
Yep.
see how he does.
Like to me, this is the horse that you kind of hinted at it. Here's my prediction for Further Ado. Um, not gonna like the 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 chaos of the Derby. Johnny V is gonna recognize it midway through the turn for home, ease him up a little bit, and it's gonna be like War of Will, in my opinion. He's gonna win the Preakness.
All right. All right. I heard it.
Half
It
the field size, tighter corners, a little less distance. favors horses near the lead.
And
Actually, we're at Laurel Park this year, so I don't know how tight the turns are, but a little less distance and a little less chaos. I think he'd love that, but we'll see.
I like Laurel Park, not necessarily the track, the place. Laurel Park, it's just beautiful.
Good things about him. I'd love to go see.
Yep, yep. So, all right. Well, hey, let's go further ado.
All right, go
All
Johnny
right.
B.
Yeah.